Apologies for that break there. Were 11,000 road accidents in 2016. That's 2,000 more cases from the previous year. Those are the latest statistics compiled by the National Road Safety Commission, and they describe it as overwhelming. Research has revealed that road traffic injuries rank among the top 4 causes of deaths among children aged 5 and above worldwide. In Ghana, children form 21% of road traffic accident victims. In the following report, JoyNews' Forgive Amedeka sheds light on how pupils between the ages of 2 and 9 are abandoned by parents to compete with vehicles for right-of-way during their daily journey to and from school, despite the recklessness of some motorists on the country's roads.
Road accidents generally claim lots of lives in Ghana. Crossing the roads in Accra can be a very dangerous venture for both children and adults. It is estimated that 170 children die in road accidents each year. Fast-moving cars, careless drivers, unruly bikers, epileptic traffic lights, faded zebra crossings, just a few of the elements that make the roads in Accra life-threatening. These streets of Accra are a dangerous place to be. Every minute on them is a stretch of pedestrian survival instincts. Yet, this is the harsh reality which most children in Accra are exposed to every day. Eliza and Joseph are 2 of such children with terrible experiences.
One Wednesday, when we were coming to school, we wanted to cross the road. By then, no one was this. One tractor driver told us that we should cross the road. Meanwhile, other cars were passing. We didn't know that another car was at the back of the tractor there. So when we were about to cross the road, then the car knocked us down.
One student from our school went and told a teacher, and the teacher came and picked us to the hospital. We went to the hospital, and they gave us some medicine and said we should be careful when crossing the road.
My father always brings us to school, but that day he didn't bring us to school.
Typically, children play along the streets of the school, worrying less about imminent dangers. Children must be assisted to cross the roads at all times, but when they are not lucky to have the assistance, these children take chances with life. They run across the streets as fast as they can, hoping to make it to the other end alive. The third born of a family of 7 is a student of the Youngsters International School. Every morning, he walks for almost 4 kilometers through chaotic traffic to school. On the day of the story, he was accompanied by his senior brothers. They passed by to drop their little brother at school before continuing to theirs. Walking and crossing the street every day is a very dangerous situation, especially where there are hardly any road signs.
Since they started schooling, I have been carrying them up and down, send them there, bring them back. Now, the senior brother, he is in charge of my everything.
I've been holding our us to cross the street. So every day, because I've been doing that, we know how to do it.
I come to school with my brothers because I'm working with my brother, so we can look left, right, and left before we cross.
That is why I train them how the way they're supposed to walk on the road.
Hence, they can boldly and confidently manage their way to and back from school, unlike other children who are left to chance. The dangers that come with these children recklessly playing in the streets of Accra after school is a worrying phenomenon, even for onlookers.
Yes, almost one. Almost no beer for almost track wine. Almost in our cast no crown, almost time, mom. Some bed in a car, you are Janasa and Colani Betchema. What do the tree? No, I bet bomb.
There are so many responsible parents in the system, and I tell you, they can even leave their ward at the age of even 2 to board a car to in and fro to school. Some don't even care whether you are able to go or not. The fact that you are a child and you know, oh, every child, a Kwesi's child is even doing it, and why can't you? You have grown enough at the age of 2 years.
It's our for your dad in here, ma. Blay brain in an kukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukukuuk. Open in our message. I bet now ban on that good. If you are now down and no track him. Now crying and none was a crowd here. One financial track him could do school. I was so crowned in the chin and could do school. No one was drana. Said by also were Mama. Why didn't so I bet and could that a
I think children should not be young children. Let's say up to 7, 8 years shouldn't be left on their own. We know life in Accra is brisk, is busy, and parents will have to prepare early in the morning and then rush to work. But at the same time, I believe that parents should find time to send their children to school.
Grumbling bitterly about how some of these children are left all alone to come to school in the face of unforeseen dangers lurking around the street.
Parents should actually be responsible from the home to the school. They should bring their child, take them from the home, and then travel them all along to the school. That one, no compromise. Anytime we organize PTA meetings, we create awareness to the parents that, look, this is your child. It is your responsibility. As for the child taking responsibility of himself, he's a child. At a point in time, yes, you might have trained a child to walk to school all by himself, but it is still not the best. So when we interact with them during PTA meetings, we tell them that, look, you have to go the extra mile by bringing your child to school.
It is clear some school authorities are doing everything possible in the area of road safety for children. On the other hand, it is obvious government is making little or no intervention on child safety on our streets.
Ebu a yɛtɔyɛ kwase ma ɔmo egyina ma ɔmo ebu a silver cross yi hɔ nti bo ho sa akwade bi gyina hɔ dɔka sɛ ɔkɔ so kwan nti wo driver nti sɛ wo nya botere ma no na wo gyina ma no na wo twem ba ni nyina so ya na ɛha yɛn
sometimes kwa me timi fa ɔmo e de ɔmo gyina ekwan mu de ɔmo yɛ den etwam nti no sɛ silver cross na ebi ni hanom no enye kura nti ne ɛha kakra wɔ ɛna ɛha in new town sɛ ɛha papa ɛka moto ho because wo gyina ma akwala twam no wanhwɛ sɛ ada sɛ moto wanya moto ni ba bebo akwala no nje so hwe se moto e ba anase moto nya den e ma nsa no wa frɛ se akwala no me den emetwam.
The concerns and challenges of some trotro drivers leave a lot to be worried about. A weave through some communities in Ghana revealed that about 5 million children ply the street of Accra to and from school in the face of reckless driving, inadequate or the absence of road signs, zebra crossings, and unforeseen motorbikes. In whose hands do parents leave their children when they go out of their homes on that dangerous journey to school? Some days they survive, When they don't, families are plunged into endless misery. Misery which could end if parents would just provide some assistance to their children when they must cross the roads to school.
The statistics alone are chilling, but of course you've seen the pictures and I don't need to say more about it. We'll be having this conversation with Bright Appiah, who is a child rights activist, to find out just what intervention government can put in place to deal with such a situation. But in the studio with me is, let me call him a friend of the show. His name is Nana Ano Amehie. He's president of the Ghana Institute of Safety and Environmental Professionals, right, Nana? Thank you very much for coming to the studio. Like I said, you've been a friend of the show for now. We'll be talking to the child rights advocate, but what would you say parents can do on an individual basis to keep their children safe? I mean, within the context that we're looking at this issue.
Yes, let me congratulate the person who put this documentary together. I think it's well researched and pieced together documentary that encapsulates everything that you're talking about, child's road safety. You see, as a parent, let's go to the parent first before we come to the authorities. As a parent, I don't see how a parent would let a 5-year-old go to school all by himself or by herself. You see, the psychologists tells us that a child under the age of 5, or let's even 8, his cognitive sense of determining the speed of the traffic is not well formed.
Okay.
So if you leave a child to go to school or under the age of 5, then you're really telling your child that you're sending the child out to be killed. Because, you see, one way or the other, when a child is going to school, he will have an interface with the traffic. And in some areas, we have a high-speed traffic in some of the schools, especially those schools that are built around high-speed zones like Teshinungwa and all those places. You see, they are not, if the school is in a heavily built area, then the traffic is actually not at a high speed. But areas where you have a high-speed traffic and you send your child to go to school on his own, even boarding trotro, somewhere along the line, the child have to come off from the trotro before he goes to the school.
Yeah.
So I don't know why a parent would send a child less than 8 years. In England, the age limit that a child can go to school on his own is age 14.
So in that case, what would you advise, or I mean, what suggestions would you have as a safety expert for parents?
You know, parents, as I said, parents should not let their children under the age of 8 go to school all by themselves. They should be accompanied and sent to school. Now, when you go to the authorities, find the solutions, how we can forestall some of these unfortunate fatalities or knockdowns. What the school authorities should do, you should have, or the local authority, I won't even say the school authority, because each school is in assembly, isn't it? What we call the district. So they should take full charge and create district assembly. They should create something we call school safety zone.
Okay.
So within 500 meters of each school should be declared as a safety zone. And what would they have to put in place? You see, Gifty, it is not for anything that the British who put together this zebra crossing, pelican crossing, and they name them with animals and stuff like that. No, a zebra has a tail, doesn't it? And if you equate the zebra on the road, the zebra crossing on the road, I just hinted you that has a tail. Do you see a tail attached to the zebra crossing on our road?
No.
You don't see a tail. You see, let me tell you what, I'm only using these things to say there's a tail. It's not really a tail. You know, in England, the zebra crossing has something that is attached to it, which is a zigzag.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen it.
Yeah.
It's a zigzag. And that's what I'm referring to as the tail of the zebra. The zigzag in a built-up area where the traffic is, let's say, 50 kilometers an hour, the zigzag will tell you that within 35 feet of the crossing, where you actually cross the road, you should not do three things. You should not stop there, you should not park there, and you should not overtake.
Okay.
So, if you see where the zebra crossing is, you do not stop, you do not park, and you do not overtake. So within that zigzag, which is 35 feet, what is put out there that your braking speed, every car, you have a braking speed. When you're doing 50 kilometers an hour, within the distance of 35 feet, you should be able to stop.
Okay.
So when they put that in there, you see the zigzag, straight away, you as a driver, you see the zigzag to the zebra crossing, you start slowing down.
Really? Will that work in Ghana?
Well, if it does, those who taught us the zebra crossing, they didn't say that we should bring the zebra crossing and not apply the rules attached to the zebra crossing. So if you are using zebra crossing, then these are the rules, and we should comply with them.
Would you describe the situation we're facing now as a national crisis? I mean, I think parents try to take their children to school, but also some of them have to work. So in instances where they have to work, they're unable to do so. But I don't know if you have followed this particular issue and if you have really paid attention to it, but would you describe it as a national crisis?
I would not say it's a national crisis, but I would rather blame the parents. I'm a parent, be it a pensioner parent, I have a pension baby, but I would not want to let my daughter, age 9, go to school all by herself and throw her to the wolves to be devoured by the wolves. The road out there, even me as an adult, driving on the road, it's frightening.
Yeah.
The sort of things that you see on the roads and what goes on in the road. And you a woman who conceive a child for 9 months and give birth and look up, and then you leave them to just go. Last time on my street.
I'll come back to you, Nana. Just hold on briefly for me. I have Bright Apia on the line. Bright Apia is a child right advocate. Hello, Bright. Thank you very much for your time here on the show.
All right, thank you, Joe.
So, right, we're looking at this very frightening story, and I mean, on the back of statistics of children who are often victims of road crashes, etc. Now, we're looking at parents who leave their children to go to school by themselves, and the fact that they have to use all of these busy roads, and the fact that drivers in this country are quite indisciplined. What would you say some of the interventions that perhaps government can put in place to deal with this issue?
Yes, if you look at the world, most of these things are driven by policy and then the intention behind it, so that be it the parent or the drivers or people who cross the road would also take cognizance of the fact that where there are indications as to how children need to behave on the street, we do that so that people will obey it. So first of all, I think that it's just within the policy arrangement that we need to create that consciousness for people to know, so that people can abide by it. So it is not up to us saying that parents want to obey it or not, or parents must leave it at the mercy of other people. But I think that the whole system must also respond to the needs of children anytime that they are crossing the road. Because if you look at the report that has come out, about 23% of the death that we experience is as a result of children crossing the road. So we need to take certain appropriate measures to ensure that we put in policy arrangements, especially when it comes to the areas that has been earmarked for people to cross and all that. And drivers do not give any respect. Exactly. So the system must respond to it. I would not say that parents, I would not say that the society or drivers. The state must respond to it. And once you're able to put that appropriate things in place, then everybody would obey that.
But if you say parents, I mean, it's not about parents, but parents are fundamentally responsible for their children. So if the state is not responding, it is your responsibility that your child is safe, isn't it?
It is true that it's the responsibility of parents to ensure, but the issue is that when it comes to parenting, if you look at the way we have drafted our legislation, we do not limit it to only parents. Even if you look at how we've shared the responsibilities, I can say in terms of the percentage that parents have only 50% shares when it comes to the welfare of children, and the state is there to design the way and manner, even the family to take care of children and all that. Yes, they have a primary responsibility towards their children. So even if parents hold the hands of their kids to cross the road and people do not respond to it, it's still not, we cannot still blame parents for doing that. But what we want to see is that the whole system must respond to the needs of children. Elsewhere, when you are crossing the road, and even if you have made a fault by crossing the road, motorists or whoever is driving must also look at the human factor before you take action. And that is what we want to do, especially where the law provides that anything that we do in this country, we have to give primary consideration to issues that affect children. So if you are a driver or you are a passerby and then you see children crossing the road, something must wake up in you to say that, no, let's wait for the children to cross the road before I carry out with my own things and all that. And looking at the percentage of children who die as a result of just crossing the road, I think that if you are awakening the conscience of the state to put up a stiffer regulation in place to deal with this issue.
Right. I'm going to ask you about where do we start. You're talking about the system responding to this. I want you to address the issue of where to start, but we run a very quick poll, and I'll have both of you have in the studio with me as well a security safety expert. Let me just run by you the poll that we've done. The question that we asked people was whether or not parents should be punished if their children are seen crossing on the road on their own. Now, the answers that we have shows that majority of the people think that parents should be punished necessarily. That's about 71% of the responses that's saying parents should be punished if their children are found crossing the road, for instance, on their own. 21% say they shouldn't be punished, and then about 11% are not necessarily sure. But majority of them wants parents to be punished. But you are pinning it down more on, Bright, you are pinning it down more on the system, as in government, rather than on parents.
Yes, I would share the opinion of those that are saying that parents need to be punished, because even within our legislation, we are gradually moving to a situation where we want parents to be solely responsible for the welfare of children.
Right.
And if you look at most of the welfare states, you can't come to that conclusion, because even for parents to have a certain system of training their children, that system must emanate from the state. The state must design it so that when parents even abuse the rights of their children, the state must punish them for that. So that is basically what we have to look at. And then building a very strong society where a parent will be responsible, and then society itself would also be responsible towards children. So what about the drivers who knock down children, who don't do due diligence on the road? What do we have to do to them? Do we have to say that because the driver has knocked down the car, so we have to go and blame the parent for it? No, certainly not. The system must respond. And for me, if you look at it from that angle, it will help all of us, and everybody will be alert anytime that a child is found in a particular environment or crossing the road.
But Bright, hold on for me. I have one last question for you. But Nana, let me engage you on this. Bright thinks that if the system makes it compulsory for you to be, as in if the system doesn't leave any loopholes for parents to, so to speak, exploit, then they will be responsible for their children much more than perhaps they do. Do you agree that with the 71 people who are saying that parents should be punished if their children are seen crossing the road, for instance?
Yeah, I agree with the poll. They're absolutely right. Because as a parent, your first responsibility you are the first line of responsibility to your child. And then before somebody else comes in.
Okay.
So the two have to work together. I mean, the system that we have going at the moment is not the best. If you see the carnage on our road, majority of it is as a result of driver error and rickety vehicles. So we need to tighten up that over there. But then it comes, nobody else can look after your child better than yourself.
Okay. Let me come to you, Bright. Bright, where do we start? My final question. Where do we start if we're going to tighten the system a bit more so that these children are protected?
Yeah, for me, the enforcement of the regulation, it's not that it's not there. It is there that we need to enforce, especially when it gets to the liberal crossing. We need to ensure that we enforce the regulation. And then two, parents also have a role to play if the system will leave children at the mercy of any other person, then parents must also take up that bold step to ensure that when they are crossing the road, they should be there to assist them to do that. But largely, I think that policy regulations must be enforced, and the state must be there to do that.
Shouldn't we also bring into the conversation the school authorities? Because, I mean, aren't they supposed to put in place certain mechanism that makes it easier, say provide a bus, etc.?
Of course, that is all that we say, that the system must respond. And if we are talking about the system, we are not only limiting it to the government machinery. We are looking at other independent institutions that are mandated to train children, to put in certain measures. And when they do that, I know that people would also gradually wake up to the reality that no, the signboard that we have here indicate that children cross the road. So when we get there, we should also be mindful of how we conduct ourselves and all that. So these are basic things that we are saying that once we put in place, children will be safe. Because the figures that we have, I think that is too alarming.
Thank you very much. Right up here, there is a child rights advocate, Nana. Let me finish this discussion with you. If you were to have a parent sitting before you right now who has so many responsibilities that they can't necessarily take their children to school, what will be your advice as a safety expert to them?
When you say the parent has too many responsibilities, what do you mean?
Because let's say they're working. I mean, their work schedule makes it very difficult. They don't have, especially single parents, they don't have someone to help them, and they have, you know what I mean. you don't, because you feel that the parents should, by all means.
You see, if you can't have a child when you cannot take care of the child. Okay. And you see, in Ghana, we have a very good system in Ghana where we have the extended family. I mean, like my pension baby, I have my mother-in-law who is a pensioner as well, who stays with us. So she is there to help. So in our system is not the best. But at least because of the extended family system that we have,
we should take advantage of it.
Take advantage of that. So you're a single parent, you go to school, work, and then you have to rely on somebody. Try and get an extended family member who also have the same feelings for the child. But if you go and engage somebody irresponsible, 18-year-old who haven't had a child of her own, to come and take care of your child as a house help, and to take the child, not even to take the child to school, but even in the house. The house helps that are these days. It's not safe? It's not safe. I mean, the child, the person looking after the child herself is a child. You see, how can a child take care of a child?
So what do you reckon they do? By all means, take your child to school?
Yes, you should have some sort of arrangement where your child means most to you. Because I would not see how what the trouble you go through by having a child from pregnancy down to toddler, down to school-going age, and to just leave the child to go to school all by herself or himself, and to be knocked down by a vehicle. Now, let me say this before. Last time on my road, on my street in West Legon, it's not so much of a busy street, but you have quite a bit of traffic on that road. And I saw about 5 children, and the lead child was less than 5 years.
Oh, wow.
And that child was leading these kids 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. And then I saw that and said, wow, who will leave these children on their own to go on this busy road? Because the road is busy, they've put road humps on there. And I went and started talking to the children. And where they told me they live at Pillar 2, and they had to go to school somewhere about 5 kilometers away.
So in that case, will it be better to have your children go to schools closer to your home?
Well, naturally. Naturally. But you see, when you talk about the parents, you cannot put all the burden on parents as well. The system that we have it, the school zone safety that I was talking about earlier, if we have made the school, the area, the immediate area around the school, let's say 500 meters around the school, safe, then the children could go to the school and at least there will be no high-speed traffic, and that would then probably knock a child down.
All right. Thank you very much. Nana Ano-Ami here for coming through. He's president of the Ghana Institute of Safety Environmental Professionals. All right.
You got it right this time.
I did. Nana Ano-Ami here is very regular on the show on safety matters. Thank you so much for coming through.